The Congress has just wrapped up. Perspective on Netanyahu's address from Amanda Berman, who starts us off. President and founder of the Zioness Movement. You know, Amanda's been on the show before. The Zioness Movement describes itself as progressive and pro-Israel. Thoughts on the address that just wrapped up?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I thought there was a lot that we could all agree with in the speech. The Prime Minister spoke about the strong bipartisan support of the United States government for Israel, spoke emphatically about President Biden's extraordinary support of Israel since October 7th throughout his life, his commitment to Zionism, calling himself a passionate Zionist. The Prime Minister focused on campus protesters and Iran's role in fomenting, so many of the challenges that we're seeing in terms of exacerbated anti-Semitism as it results from the war in Gaza. What I would say that I think is missing, I mean, there was I think an incredible show of the diversity of Israel, showing Muslim and Bedouin IDF heroes and showing a lot of the hostages and the families of hostages. But I think what was missing was a real commitment to bringing them home. And what I understood in terms of the hostage families that did not want the Prime Minister to come in the first place, who said he shouldn't be using this platform until their loved ones come home from the terror tunnels, the dungeons of Hamas in Gaza. From what I understand, it was their perception, according to Hirsch Goldberg-Polin, one of the hostages' fathers, said, right, This address is a failure unless we hear how our loved ones are coming home.
Yeah, he said the war would end tomorrow. The hostages would all come home if, and he said this before, if Hamas just surrenders, then that's it. But if not, he's going to, quote unquote, finish the job. I thought it was notable that he said that he could finish the job a little bit easier if he gets the tools faster to do so, obviously referring to aid coming in from the United States. But your point is that for many of the families, and we speak to them as well, that's not enough. That message is not enough.
Well, I think it is absolutely true, and I've been saying this over and over again since October 7th, that if Hamas were to release the hostages, the war would be functionally over. There would be a ceasefire. And one of the major problems with the sort of ceasefire movement, the people that you called anti-war activists, that I actually don't think are anti-war activists, and I can explain why, sure, but they've been putting all of the pressure on Israel to cease fire, by which they mean stop defending yourselves from a genocidal terror organization, Hamas, funded by a genocidal government, the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has said over and over again that it would do October 7th over and over again until Israel is destroyed.
Right.
So it is true. Sorry.
Netanyahu talked. We're looking at some of the shots outside the Capitol and the streets of Washington right now. As I said at the top, and you could explain what you think of this protest movement. He says, "Oh, they're just useful idiots." That was his term, useful idiots for Iran.
Well, I think it's important to distinguish between protesters who are protesting a government and its policies and protesters who are protesting the sovereignty of the Jewish state. And so I think that a lot of the protesters who are calling themselves anti-war are in the same breath saying, for example, stop sending weapons to Israel, and essentially saying that Israel should not have the means to defend itself, again, against these genocidal terror organizations, which is not an anti-war posture. It is an anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, and genocidal posture toward the Jewish people. But there are a lot of people who are not useful idiots, people who are seeing images that break their hearts, people who genuinely want the war to end. And again, that is a large portion of Israeli society. That is how hostage families feel. And they weren't really given any sort of grace today from what I heard in the speech.
Right. And, Netanyahu, we're going to go out to the protest movement in a moment. Tell me, Claudine, when we have Evan Lambert, he's covering those protesters. Things have really picked up. Maybe it's because the speech wrapped up a little bit, that they're being a little bit even more aggressive. Actually, all right, let me stop you for a moment, Amanda. I want to check in on this because we were watching those arrests. The shot was breaking up a little bit. Evan Lambert's now live out there in the street. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.